Hello and welcome to the LCS Countdown, where for 30 minutes we dive into the jungle matchups of the day, highlight the LCS's first ever book, and teach you the way of the level 1 invade until the top of the hour, where we jump into Champion Select. Looking at the standings as we come into our final day of the week, we've got a trio tied for second between FlyQuest, Team Liquid, and TSM. We've got Evil Geniuses and CLG close behind them, while we're starting to see 100 Thieves climb out of that slog at the bottom of the standings. But of course, Cloud9 still sits atop the table and is ahead of the rest. I do want to talk about that clump in second, though, because it started as 5 coming into the week, and now we're down to 3. Yesterday, TL did eke out a victory over Immortals in what was one of the most exciting base races of the split, and you online were clamoring to get an opportunity to see it again. So we went back, we pulled it. Let's take a look.
And that is a big win here for TL. Insanity shuffled over the wall. Immortals not willing to let that Baron go, and tragedy strikes Team Liquid, man. Now they're in the power play. Now they've got the 5v3. This could be a push that they try to end on.
Yep, 30 seconds left on Graves, 45 on the Orianna. Immortals had it in their hands, and they fumble at the finish line. Team Liquid, they strike back so quickly. Baron empowered, push into the base. Again, it's 3 Immortals versus 5 TL with the Baron buff.
And there's no Orianna. There's no wombo combo potential there with a Malphite Ori ulti doubled up. Alorum jumps in. He's trying to hold the line, but Apollo and Hakuo, what can they do? Hakuo forced to run away. Jensen grabbing the kill onto Alorum. Smithy back alive. Team Liquid still looking to end this one. It's 10 seconds until Insanity is back into the game, but Team Liquid may have bit off more than they can chew. Impact barely walking himself away from this one. Apollo trying to keep them at bay, utilizing the volleys. Tactical is incredibly strong, trying to continue building distance here for himself. You can see Impact wanting to get back to the base, but what is this? It's the back door, ladies and gentlemen. He TPs in. Nobody's around to stop it. We're going to have a base race. Tactical able to put the auto attacks down, and that is it. Team Liquid grabbed the win. What the hell was that ending?
Let's go! That game was awesome, Flowers. Ooh, that game.
What in the world, man?
So I thought a lot of people were saying maybe he should have gotten a Lich Bane, right? Pop the Spellbinder in base, buy a Lich Bane, TP in there, and maybe get a few autos. Besides that, Insanity had an amazing game, though. Yes, the play that they kind of threw the game in at the very end of the base was his sombrero, but despite the 1-6 record for this team, I just can't wait to see more of him play in the LCS.
Yeah, he's super fun to watch, and I was looking at us trying to do some quick math to see if they could actually get it to 1.5 second cooldown on Lich Bane if he bought it. We don't know exactly what his AP ratio was at that time. You know, maybe around an extra 500, 600 damage per proc of it, and Nexus HP is 5.5k. It was also, you know, like around 60% damage dealt to
it.
So,
maybe,
you know,
maybe
like,
3 autos, maybe 3 procs.
Could have done it.
Could have been enough.
Could have done
It's hard to say. It's hard to say, but either way, it was a hard-fought game, and it was TL that did eke out the victory to move into second place alongside a couple other squads. One of those battles for second place took place yesterday between FlyQuest and Evil Geniuses, but I'll be honest, FlyQuest dispatched of Evil Geniuses pretty easily.
This game was not... Sorry, go ahead.
All right, yeah, EG, man, I was very disappointed with them. I love FlyQuest. They look super, super good. But EG has always gone for these experiments, it feels like, against top teams, which I appreciate. That's the right thing to experiment against, not against Dignitas or Immortals teams who are struggling. They've done it against FlyQuest, they've done it against TSM, and they've done it against C9, where they've done the Karma, Kassadin, and now Kog'Maw, and it's never worked. And that's why I'm a little bit scared for this team, is that they seem to be able to rely on Jizuke, but anytime that he's on a scaling champion or a little bit less of a champion with less agency, they really struggle.
It makes their games fairly lopsided, where their wins are really stompy, which come off the back of those picks that we know they're really good at, and then their losses end up just being a flop, whether it's the Karma, the Kassadin, or the Kog'Maw, like you said, where Jizuke doesn't really get to do a whole lot. So I hope that the team can just say, you know what, this is what we're best at, and just stick to it, because the season is almost halfway through. You don't have a lot more time to experiment, and it's better to just double down on what you're good at and beat everybody else at it.
I mean, talking about flops, like we spent so much of yesterday hyping up Kumo because I was so excited to see them play this matchup again, and Solo just completely smashed him. He set up for the top lane dive, and then he camped in the bush and was able to kill Kog'Maw after that. I know, like, we talk about Jizuke's Kog'Maw, but Solo had such a, like, blow-up game yesterday that was really impressive, and I'm really happy to see, Solo stepping up even more.
Well, those were the games that took place yesterday to put us in the position we are today. So let's pull up the schedule and see what we're set up for. Another battle for second place. Go figure with FlyQuest and Team Liquid. These two teams we're just talking about going head-to-head in our second game of the day. Then we got another chapter in our age-old El Clasico rivalry with TSM and CLG in Game 3 before we close out the week with Immortals versus Evil Geniuses. Then make sure you stay tuned, though, for the Bud Light League Lounge where the Tigress, Azale, Crumbs, and I will serve up a tall, cold recap of the week's biggest events and maybe, just maybe, have a little fun playing games along the way. That all comes later in the day, but first we got to get through 4 incredible matchups, and I want to talk about a couple of those that lie ahead of us. In particular, FlyQuest versus Team Liquid, another battle for second.
Yeah, I think for me, I am super impressed with FlyQuest. I would say that they have the best top side of the map, hands down, now that they've taken down EG. PoE has been incredible. Santorin has been incredible. And like Brawley was just saying, Solo's been incredible. And I think the gap between their top side of the map and probably the third best team, because, C9 is the best, the gap between first and second is as large as the gap between second and third. I don't think anyone is even close to the top side of the map the way that FlyQuest is working together up there.
What's interesting about Solo is that he has the smallest champion pool played for top laners right now. He only has 2 picks, and it's pretty obvious what happens when he has those. He's either playing Ornn and playing weak side, or playing Set and playing strong side, with the exception of the match against Jace. But when he has the Set, they love to help him out, and he delivers in snowballing games through that part of the map. So if Evil Geniuses is trying to put a dent into this lineup, if Team Liquid is trying to put a dent into this lineup, I think you want to get rid of those Set picks and maybe put Impact in something that can play strong side and try to see what FlyQuest do about it.
How do you feel about that strategy, Probably?
I don't know. I mean, I do know that a big pick for Impact is Ornn, and we just saw yesterday FlyQuest Solo taking the Set into Ornn and completely demolishing him. I do think Impact has a slightly better laning phase, but right now it looks like Impact's champion pool is really not going to be a problem for Solo. So we're talking about this really strong topside. We have not seen Team Liquid play around topside at all. So this might be something that they attack today.
Well, let's talk a little bit more holistically then about Team Liquid, probably, because it's interesting to me that they share the exact same record as FlyQuest, sitting at 5-2, and yet it's still kind of confusing how they're finding these wins, and statistically they don't rank even close in certain categories to some of the top teams.
Yeah, so these stats are not really great. Right now, when we talk about like competitive, like high-tier League of Legends teams, they usually have really good Drake control. Here, we're looking at 40%, the 7th in the league. For a top 2 team, that's pretty low to have Drake control. Herald is also really low. This is another just like gold pinata objective that you want to take early. So this tells me the early game is not that strong. And if you look at average win time, we're looking at 9th. This also means they don't close very quickly. And I know we've had good teams that play these slow macro games, but if you're not getting the Drakes, you're not getting the Heralds, your early game advantage isn't there, it looks like you're just slowly eking out a win and hoping for your opponent to make a mistake.
What I want to see from this team is just more coordinated recalls. They need to be basing before the objective, setting up first, and not giving up these dragons when they have an advantage in their power spikes or compositions. That will help them out a lot.
And I think it's fair to say, too, like, average win time is not always, like, this horrible thing if you're a team that tries to play for later game and scaling, which Team Liquid kind of does. But when you actually look at the games, like the Dignitas game, like the Immortals game and these ones, it's clear to see that this is not some late game team dragging it out before winning team fights dominantly. It's a struggle for this team, even in the late game.
Yeah, they're finding the wins. They are picking them up. Sorry, Probably. What was that?
No, the last thing that we're talking about things we want to see Team Liquid, and honestly, I want to see a little bit more in the draft. Like, I don't want to see, like, pure 50-50 lanes. Like, no one has an advantage anywhere. Like, pick something with a slight advantage in lane so you can play off of that and get some kind of lead off of a lane.
Just a couple thoughts of what we'd like to see from Team Liquid to give us a little more confidence moving forward that they can contest at the top of the table. We are going to take a quick breather as we go to break. We've got TSM versus CLG in Game 3, which for Doubleth could be the first time the rivalry has had some weight in quite some time.
4 versus 4, no supports alive. No Guardian Angel for Meteos, whereas TSM still has 2. Weaver's wall! Weaver's follow-up hits on couple. Now can they have the follow-up damage? Can they flip this low? Meteos, another knockup, trades his life, but it does. Gets the GA. Double on the wall. Kills everybody. They've got 3. Impact goes down. And A's for TSL.
Double it turns around the fight, and he takes over. I could not have been prouder of my teammates. Like, everyone stepped up to the plate when it really mattered.
TSM win their 4th North American Championship.
And now, Are You My Jungler? Written and read by Clayton Captain Flowers Reigns. Illustrated by George Red Raptor 5 Allmeyer.
Are you my jungler? I'm on to the Rift. It's a big day. But thankfully, my jungler's on the way. Are you my jungler? No. You're ganking top at level 3 to swing the matchup. My jungler must be elsewhere. Are you my jungler? No, you've gotten both scuttles, and you've kept river control for 10 whole minutes. My jungler must be elsewhere. Are you my jungler? No. You've given your mid laner blue, and I have to spend TP for the 2nd time, while Syndra gets all those plates. My jungler must be elsewhere. Are you my jungler? No. You and your support, you're invading and farming our wards for high vision score. My jungler must be elsewhere. Are you my jungler? No. You've won the 50-50 at Drake. And Herald. And the next Drake. And Baron. My jungler truly must be elsewhere. I've finally found my jungler. He's not ganking top. He's not getting crabs. He's not giving blue. He's not controlling vision. He's not landing smites. He's getting Krugs. Wuju style. Again. Better jungler wins. The end.
Welcome back to the LCS Countdown, where we're gearing up for Game 1 of the day. Cloud9 versus Dignitas. And Game 1 has the Spring Split MVP Blabber hitting the Rift. And on a jungle-focused day, it's impossible to not talk about his historic start to his career.
Blabber is incredible. I mean, he's been around a little bit longer than I think people realize. You know, he was drafted by C9 in 2017 Scouting Grounds, and then he had been subbing in and out of the LCS basically since then, with a little bit of extra time to finish high school because he was taken so young. But ever since then, you know, 2018 summer, he's actually been coming in and out. And so he's played more games than I think people realize. And he has the 2nd highest start win rate ever through the first 50 games that we've ever seen out of a North American player. And it has been so incredible how well he's done. The only people better than him were that 2013 C9 roster that exploded onto the scene way back when it was still a totally underdeveloped league.
I think the fact that he stands there by himself is a testament to how good he is, right? You have Huni, Rainover, okay, they're together. We've got Bio, Contract, Santorins. There's a lot of these players that were also in incredible teams. Nobody else from the time that Blabber is playing is moving up into that record. Like, he alone is just tearing up the league.
Yeah, it's quite a precipitous drop-off, you know, once you get past those first couple clumps of people. But that point you're making, Crumbs, about the fact that he's there individually is so phenomenal to me. And then, of course, you have to take into account that, as you said, Mark, this is only looking at the first 50 games. Those Cloud9 players, of course, continued to play on. But Blabber, he's still going too, right? And so we don't even know yet how great this guy's career can get or can become.
He's the kind of player who would get an offer from the LPL.
Yeah, and I think the other thing, too, is not just, okay, he has an insane win rate, but these are these all-time ranking for LCS junglers. If the stat exists, Blabber is basically the best. It is insane how dominant he is. And so while all those other people might have had one more game or one less game than him, no one has come onto the scene and dominated the way that he has for his position. And that's why I would make the case that this is the best start for a player's career we have ever seen in North America.
Yeah, if you can look at these stats, like normally you'll see someone who has like a big gold share or a big farming percentage, and they'll lack kills or something. Like, you know, there's a give and take to how you play this game. But if you look at Blabber's, like he's actually leading in all these kills and assists, and in gold and XP. So he's not playing this like one-dimensional style. I'm gonna gank everyone. He's actually playing a whole lot of styles, and he's successful at all of them right now.
And if I'm a new jungler that's trying to understand or fit into a team or not sure what style I want, I'm looking at every single Blabberbot and just trying to copy him, because clearly no one else is at that level. And if I can just get an ounce of that for my own gameplay, then I think you'll be in a really good spot.
I would say, make sure you're surrounded by good teammates as well. Because
I would like one
think
Nisky,
the rest
please.
of C9 does a good job of propping him up, even though he's phenomenal.
Yeah, without a doubt, it is a team game. I want to put a little more context around that first 50 games and the record that is being held by the original C9 roster. It took them until their 68th game to drop another game. So that we showed their first 50. They played all the way to 68, where they lost their next game.
Who beat them?
Who beat them? Yeah, who did beat them?
Oh,
I think it was one Dignitas and Crumbs who beat them. You were playing Lee Sin against Meteos' Kazakhs. But essentially, I have to ask the question,
How did
Blabber
I do
is
it?
Blabber's now just cresting 57, 58 games in the LCS. We've eliminated his international statistics alongside the original C9 guys. Do you think he can hit that 68 mark and surpass the original Cloud9 roster without dropping games? Are we witnessing the birth of a new GOAT, the new greatest of all time in the LCS?
I'm of the opinion that we're starting to see it. I don't know if he will eventually take over the win rate thing, because it was such a different scene back then. It was a lot, you know, less competition, I think it's fair to say. There was not nearly as much money in the scene. But I also think that his individual dominance is better than anyone we've seen before. And so if he can continue to win, continue to pick up MVPs at the rate that he is doing, there's no reason that in a year or two we're not talking about him as the greatest North American player ever.
Already in that conversation for MVP again here in the Summer Split. All right, so Blabber is the clear #1 jungler in the league, if not the best player in the league, full stop. But I want to take a look at the remaining competitors that he has, and let's start with Santorin, the guy who finished second to him in spring when it came to the finals.
Yeah, I think Santorin actually has a lot of really incredible stats to back him up overall. I mean, he has the second highest kills and assists at 15, so he's super active in the early game. Second in kills. He's actually higher in KDA than Blabber this split. And of people who have played all 7 games, he's first in damage percent. So he is someone who doesn't die very often, makes almost no mistakes while still getting his team ahead, and often playing a team-centric role where he's taking the trundle when people need it and stuff like that. And so I think Santorin has low-key been incredible this split.
The exciting part about Santorin is that he actually didn't have a great phase in his career before FlyQuest joins the team, and is really showing us, like, we don't really know how long some of these players can go for. Like, you can just hit multiple peaks and still be an incredible asset to your roster.
Let's talk about another person who was expected to be an incredible asset to his roster coming in spring. Rough start for the squad, Crumbs. Team Liquid's Broxa.
Yeah, and Broxa came in as the supportive jungler. We knew that he was going to be quite selfless, and that selflessness right now is putting him at the bottom of the gold share for junglers. He is only above Wiggly. Now, the interesting thing about that is he actually has 2 Graves games still under his belt, so that is not what you would expect from that. And that is the one thing that I want to see Team Liquid work a little bit more around, because it's become somewhat telegraphed that this is what his style is going to be, and so either the lanes have to deliver a little bit more, or he's going to have to be playing a little bit more selfishly to be able to really get the most out of those Graves or Kindred if he wants to play champions.
And while Team Liquid has found some footing here in summer with a 5-2 record, probably I want to talk about another jungler, top-tier jungler who has a lot of expectations swirling around him. Former MVP, just like Blabber. In fact, the man that Blabber replaced, Svenskeren.
Yeah, Svenskeren was always known for aggressive picks and kind of relentless engages, so he's definitely up there for really strong junglers in North America. However, his stats are kind of like the anti-Blabber. He's pretty low in every single category, so if you weren't watching these games and you were only going by stats, you probably wouldn't be very hyped on Svenskeren. But from the eye test, if you watch him play, he's a really strong player. But when they're losing, I know Crumbs mentioned they like get stompy wins or stompy losses. He's very comfortable dying in these losses.
Yeah, I don't know if anyone saw the end of the last game. The game was basically over, and he still ran straight at the enemy team by himself to try and throw an axe at the minion wave to try and clear it, in the off chance somehow they rally. And so I definitely appreciate a player who really does not care about the stats and will do whatever he thinks is the best thing to do in that moment.
Yeah, head first, all in, commits to the play. Mark, we got one more jungler to talk about, and that would be TSM's new jungler, Spica, who has impressed us so far.
Yeah, it's the defense against the Dark Arts position, as we love to call it, and he's actually held up pretty well. He's more of a Lupin in that regard, and he has pretty strong, or looked pretty strong, excuse me. He's first in team jungle proximity, third in kills and assists, third in kills, and then there's a massive drop-off behind Blabber, Santorin, then him, and then it's just, another 10 people behind. And then on top of that fact, he has the second highest goal difference at 10. So he's actually been very good for TSM throughout the early portion of the split.
It's awesome to see him level up. Crumbs, we're talking about junglers. I think it's important to remember that in the game of League of Legends, we don't start when the minions meet in the mid lane. It starts from the moment you leave the fountain, and junglers are so integral to early game strategy. Let's dive into that a little bit more.
Yeah, I did some digging around for what Cloud9's jungler does in the early game, and specifically I wanted to see what value are they getting before minions spawn, and this is them going for level 1 late invades. Now, they're going for these late invades when they know they have stronger level 1 matchups, and it usually results in some really chaotic situations if the enemy team wants to take them. Now, in this one, well, you're up against an Ivern. Ivern cannot smite without having used his passive to secure the camp earlier, so Cloud9 can get Blabber to level 2, and even though the fight ends up being quite messy for Immortals and Cloud9, they 3-buff Ivern, and you set the tone for how the game wants to start, and they'll eventually actually get some more kills going their way. Even though Blabber dies here, I believe Sven will pick up one onto Apollo, and because he doesn't have teleport, well, now you've got Sven winning the bottom lane. So this is another invade that Cloud9 goes for. The same situation here. You know you have a stronger early game, and against a jungler that wants to power farm, you set him behind from the get-go, and he's not going to be able to hit level 6 quite as easily.
Now, probably let's talk about the value of invades, because obviously not every team should be doing it every single time. What do you actually gain from a movement like this?
Well, there's actually a lot of benefits you can get. In this game in particular, we have Nocturne getting pushed off as blue, so Nocturne's goal in the early game usually is to farm until 6 so he can get access to his ultimate. So this just puts behind Nocturne's early game win condition. So that by itself is really strong. And kind of a maybe subconscious effect it has on the game is just the fact that most players have an idea of how their lane plays out in the first 10 minutes of the game. But no one really predicts, like, oh, how's my lane going to play when my enemy jungler is behind me? So by invading, you're actually kind of changing the landscape of the early game. When your opponent is probably preparing for something more standard, more easy, you kind of throw a wrench in the system and be like, all right, well, my jungler's behind you now. How are you going to play out your lane?
I think right there we decide, or rather explain the value of having strategy, whatever it is, but having an intention in your early game as opposed to waiting for that minute and 55 seconds when the minions actually start smacking each other. Let's focus in on game 1 of the day. We know that Cloud9 are clear favorites here, and I don't think we want to dance around that topic. So I thought it might be wise to bring back the over-unders that we kind of kicked up in jest yesterday. It started with the total number of minutes we expect this game time to go. 24 was where I put the line. Mark, yesterday you jumped under that line. Is that where you still land?
I'm still going under, baby. It would be the fastest game of the split for C9, but I believe in them. I think they will. And, Dignitas are down to scrap.
The other two of you got a little more faith. Why is that?
I think the game just takes a little bit longer to close out. Despite you having some fun, I think that the game, to put it under 24, has to be a hell of a stomp.
Yeah, I think Dig is going to try to put up a fight. I don't think it's going to be as messy as you think. I think they're going to try to clean it up a bit.
All right. Next up, turrets taken by Dignitas. So this is solely on Dignitas' side. We're putting the line at 1.5. Let's get the reveal, see where you guys land on this one before I make you explain yourselves. Wha-bam.
All right, good. I'm glad we all agree.
So all of you think Dignitas is taking no more than 1 turret?
I think they'll specifically take one, actually. I think they will take 1 turret. The reason being, what will likely happen is Cloud9 overcommits to pushing one side with like a Rift Herald push, and then they'll get a ton over there, and then Dignitas says, oh, we got to trade, so let's just try to get a turret on the other side of the map, and then that will be their first turret.
Okay, Mark, how do we quantify turret plates? Do those actually count? Like, what if they take 8 out of 15? No, full turret or nothing?
Full turret or nothing.
Okay,
it says turrets, not turret
nothing.
plates.
The turret plates are
That's true. All right.
Yeah,
we
it's
take
a
it.
consolation prize. If they can
we
get
take
them,
it at face
good
value.
job.
All right, fair enough. They're all going under, so Dignitas, you just got to get more than one turret or take the win. Who knows? Last one here would be combined kills per minute between the two squads. We're putting the line at 0.83. Now, let me give you some context on that. The context is that C9 averages in their games 0.76 combined kills per minute, a little bit less. Their bloodiest game, though, was actually against FlyQuest, and that was at 0.9. So we split the difference there and threw the line down. Do you think Dignitas and Cloud9 are going to go at it and give us a scrappy one?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
I want to see these over-unders.
Yeah, I'm going under. Good. It probably
But Crumbs thinks Crumbs expects blood.
Yeah,
Why is that?
Okay, so first of all, Dig had no problem going for scrappy fights yesterday, so I don't expect that to stop today, because that's how you fight. You got to fight against Cloud9. You have to be willing to fight them. So if they at least understand that, they'll go for some scrappiness. And from what we saw from Cloud9 against CLG, they were really strong early game. They were blowing summoners left, right, and center. So that's going to continue, and they'll just find blood and run with it.
I have a feeling Mark thinks that all that's going to happen is C9 aces every fight, and therefore you never have enough kills coming back the other way to get them. All right, well, Niski and the rest of Cloud9, their emote game is quite strong. So instead of doing an over-under on how many times they're going to hit the penguin dabbing or licorice spams the camp, we thought it'd be fun to fire up a little game of emote bingo. So this is an example card. I believe it's actually my card. But what you can do is you can head to any of these analyst Twitters, as well as our two casters, Pastry Time and Azale. We have each crafted a card of emotes to be filled out. There you can see Mark's in his screen there. Pick your favorite card. Pick the analyst that you want to win. That would be me. And play along with us during this first game of the day. I'm hoping we get spams all around. I'm very curious to see which column, row, or diagonal is going to win at the very least. Crumbs, what are you thinking here? What do you think is the most obvious emote that we're going to get super early on?
I think we're going to absolutely get the angry bee, but I also have to say, these guys that are advertising their cards, any good product doesn't need any advertising. So I can already say at least Dashes and Eyes are probably better than Marks and Prawley. So head over to Twitter and check it out.
I concur on that front. Go check those out on Twitter. Pull your favorite one. Time for us to hand it over to Pastry and Azale to get us into that first game of the day.